Was Fanatics' first trading card release a miss? If you read the comments, you'd think so. But today, we're going to debate if those commenters were right or wrong. Hello, sports card investors, and welcome to the week where Kentucky fans all over the nation weep. They go home in shame. This is the beginning of the end of Kentucky's tournament run. Doug, another year of disappointment is upon us. You've gotten used to this as a Kentucky fan.
How far do you have Florida going in your NCAA bracket?
Florida is going to be holding up a championship trophy this year. It may be the NIT trophy, but it'll be a championship trophy nonetheless. Anyway, welcome to the show, Hammer.
Always good to be back.
Kind of welcome to the show, Doug.
Did you catch the end of the last episode? Is that what this is about?
We got a lot to talk about today. We're going to get on topic now. We got a lot to talk about. Big news in the sports card hobby this week. One of the things that happened was Fanatics released their first set. And in fact, they actually sold it last week. But we've gotten some of the box openings starting to take place this week. And in fact, on Monday, earlier this week here on our Sports Card Investor channel, we opened the box. And the box, for those of you that didn't see that, it was ZeroCool is the name of the brand, and it was VeeFriends. That was the first set. It wasn't a sports card set. And I think a lot of people were surprised that Fanatics' first trading card set that they released wasn't a sports card set. Now, technically, Fanatics bought Topps back at the beginning of January, so you could say that, well, Topps has released some sets, so those are kind of Fanatics sets. But this was a brand new brand called ZeroCool, and the purpose of the brand is to create cards for culture, to create cards for musicians and artists and influencers. And they collaborated with Gary Vee, and they released his VeeFriend characters as part of the first set. I was entertained opening the box. I'm an NFT collector. I've been in that space with Gary Vee's NFTs and everything like that. The characters don't appeal to me too much, but I appreciate it, I respect it, and I was fine opening the box. But man, the comments were rough. The comments have been rough. Your comments have been rough, and so many of you said this was a miss for Fanatics' first trading card set. Now, I've got a strong opinion that you commenters are wrong, and I'm going to tell you why in a minute. But Hammer, were the commenters right in your opinion? Was this a miss for Fanatics' first trading card set?
So, I do think it was a bit of a miss. I thought there were some good things, but I thought there were some things that I didn't necessarily like. I like the fact that they were able to be transparent in how many boxes were produced, how many boxes were released. So that's something that the trading card community has been looking for, that kind of transparency.
True print run info.
Has me really excited for, what is going to be able to be done with Fanatics moving forward and how they can sort of progress the sports card community and the business. So, but, I'm really happy for the VeeFriends and the Gary Vee community that they were able to have something like this. But to me, it seems like Josh Luber maybe lost some sort of bet to Gary Vee a while back.
Oh no!
And this was maybe their way to maybe solve that. This was something that I was hoping that the sports card community could get kind of their first lick at, being that we've seen so many problems over the past few years and even before then. So. I'm happy for those VeeFriends supporters and things like that, but I was hoping to see maybe something a little more relevant to sports. I mean, my dad, who's been in this hobby for 50 years, I can't even explain to him what this really even is. I think I would need a 7-hour TED Talk to be able even to get to the portion of it where I'm actually talking about the box and what is in it. Okay.
Well, one thing is clear, and you and your dad were not the target audience for this. And that's one of the things I will say to the audience out there. This is a new brand of cards that Josh Luber and Fanatics created that is hitting a different audience. It's hitting people that traditionally probably haven't been into trading cards. It's hitting people who follow artists, follow musicians, follow influencers, buy NFTs. A lot of those folks are not necessarily the same folks who are collecting sports cards today. In my opinion, it's brilliant because it's widening that reach. It's bringing more people into trading cards through other channels, and this clearly was for that audience. But you can't argue with the fact that it's sold out. So, and that's the thing, right? Even though the commenters on this show may not have been the audience, it got over 21,000 bids for this product. It quickly sold out. Doug, did it appeal to you? What are your thoughts on this?
No, it did not appeal to me at all. Like, that's just not for me. But am I disappointed that the first run from Fanatics was this ZeroCool pop culture product? No, I'm not disappointed. What I am disappointed in is how quickly the hobby is to just be mad about something. Reading the comments, I'm just kind of blown away. Well, not really blown away. I sort of come to expect it at this point. But it's disappointing that everyone has just taken that approach that I don't like it, so it's the death of the hobby. Boo Fanatics, you've ruined sports cards. This isn't a sports card launch. I don't like the product, so you know what I'm going to do? Nothing.
Nothing.
I'm not going to buy the boxes. I'm not going to buy the singles. And I'm not going to get online and proclaim the death of the hobby. We've got sports cards still. Topps and Panini are still making sports cards. If anything, this is a really good test run to see how blind Dutch auctions works, which are pretty awesome, by the way. I really like that. It's a great test run to see what the transparency of the hobby could look like going forward with print runs, something you mentioned. So I'm not mad about this in general. I don't like it. It doesn't appeal to me. I'm not going to buy it. They're going to do more. Spoiler alert, ZeroCool is going to continue to do more pop culture stuff. It's not going to be sports related. So, I mean, I don't know what you do at home. Do you turn on the TV and if it's a show you don't like, you just sit there and yell at it until it goes away, or do you change the channel? Like, just go buy sports cards. They still exist.
And, you know, we had Josh Luber on live with us on Instagram a couple of nights ago, and there are a few interesting nuggets that came out of that. First of all, ZeroCool as a brand, they're going to do a ton of stuff, tons of different card releases, all kinds of culture collaborations. They've got a collaboration going on with Nike actually right now. They're going to have another major collaboration coming out. He said some cool things. Like, he said, what if we were to combine the ZeroCool brand with like athletes with some of the sports card stuff? What if we were to put out sets for various cities? And here's a Chicago set that includes your top athletes from Chicago, also includes your top musicians from Chicago, also includes your top politicians, like Barack Obama autos are in there. I was like, ooh, that's kind of an interesting collaboration. You could buy a set of Chicago cards or boxes of Chicago cards. There's a lot that can be done with it. Doug, you made a really great point. We got to move on to the next topic, but you made a really great point. This was a test run. They used ZeroCool to test the technology around the blind Dutch auctions. It went really well. It's a very fair way of selling these products. To me, this was a test. It was a very successful test. And even though the sports card audience didn't get it, didn't love it, I understand it. But in my opinion, it was a very successful test. And I think a very good sign for what we're going to see from Fanatics with sports cards in the future.
Definitely much more excited about the innovation of the project than necessarily what the project was about. So totally agree in that sense.
Now bring on Topps Chrome basketball.
There you go. Topps Chrome basketball coming soon. All right, guys, we got to jump into our next topic, and that is the data dive. So this past weekend, this past Saturday, on the Market Movers YouTube channel, Teapot did a great episode where Teapot talked about, he said, hey, are all cards going to become worthless? What he really meant, if you listen to the article, is the fact that there is a lot of speculation that takes place around rookie cards and around prospect cards, you know, with baseball and that type of thing. And the first year that these cards come out, there are a lot of different cards that are worth a lot of money because people are chasing all these different rookies and all these different prospects. But over time, the number of cards that actually are worth something 5 years from now, 10 years from now, is such a small number, because many of these careers don't pan out, right? Doug, have you been caught in this before? What is your opinion? Is this true that a lot of cards that people are hyping today actually become worthless over time?
Yeah, that's true. I wouldn't say worthless, but worth less, I guess. Like, right now, we're in a period where we've hit this huge peak in the sports card market, and it's come down and it started to plateau a little bit, and it's more sustainable. So I think you're less susceptible to getting, you know, your feelings hurt with a bad investment right now. But it's definitely the case that unless you go on to be just a Hall of Famer, multiple-time All-Star, world champion, speculative prices aren't going to sustain. They just aren't, period. So that's what you're going to see. You've seen it in the past. You've seen it throughout the 90s, the 80s, whatever the case may be. And for a lot of people that have only jumped into the hobby in the past couple of years as it's come back, they may not just have that insight. They may be buying into prospects, not understanding what that's going to look like 10 years from now. Prospecting is a short-term game for the most part. You might hit that home run that does turn into the next big thing, and it has long-term value. But for the most part, you're buying a guy that you want to move in the next 2-3 years, if not much, much sooner. That's kind of your window to take advantage of that kind of stuff. If that's what you're doing, is speculating for investment.
Yeah, and one of the things, Hammer, that I saw, I actually did a whole video about this on the Sports Card Investor channel probably a year or so ago, where I looked at like the at that time the 2019 basketball rookie class, and the numbers were something like there were 11 or 12 players from that class whose PSA 10 cards were worth more than $100. And then when you went back to 2018, it was something like 9. And when you went back to 2017, all of a sudden it was something like 6. And then you went all the way back to 2013, and I think you had 2. I think it was like CJ McCollum and Giannis that were the 2 that were, over. Maybe there was a third, but it was such a small number. And every year it stepped down and stepped down. It did illustrate this concept that a lot of the guys who are hot and worth something today may not be down the road. Does this jive with what you've seen? And I know you're a big baseball collector, so this probably plays out even more there with prospects, I would suspect.
Totally, and I think some of it comes down to too is, each year there is a new rookie class, which means there is new focus put on different players, which is why I think you see, like you just mentioned, that each year you went back, it was less and less players because there was more relevant players that were on the forefront that people were starting to collect. Now, if you're talking about, looking at long term, so like for baseball, a guy like Wander Franco for me, he's going to have to put up Juan Soto, Ronald Acuna type numbers for a long time in order for, I think, a lot of these card prices to hold water over time. So I do think there's kind of a misconception in terms of people, buying and thinking they're going to have to hold long term. Nowadays, it's really about knowing when to hold them and when to fold them. I mean, if 2 or 3 years from now, Wander Franco is not playing out people hoped and expected, those people are probably going to be looking for the next prospect. They're going to be going after the next guy who has hype. So I think nowadays it's more about knowing when you have to sell if this guy isn't going to be the next face of the league.
Yeah, excellent point, Hammer. Absolutely. Time's up on that topic, but we're going to get into the mailbag. Before we do, take a look at this. Guys, go download the Sports Card Investor app in the App Store right now. It's free, or if you already have it on your phone, load it back up, update it, because there's been some great new features added over the last couple of months, such as the ability to freely search for any card, hundreds of thousands of cards, as well as a cool shuffle mode. It's fun. Hit the shuffle button, and you just see random cards from our database of hundreds of thousands of cards. It's fun just to browse through and see some of these awesome cards you've never seen before. That's the Sports Card Investor app. Okay, guys, it's time for our mail day. And what we do is we pull a couple of questions every week from the YouTube comments and we answer them right now. So any question you want to hear answered on this show next week, leave that question in the YouTube comments at this time. One question was, how much time do you spend speculating on raw versus graded cards? This is a really interesting question because the world has changed with graded cards, with the fact that obviously we had PSA shut down for a long time and that type of thing. Now we're starting to see more openings there for people to get cards graded. But Doug, I'll start with you. Raw versus graded, where do you spend your time?
Sure, yeah, it's a really interesting question, and it really depends on what I'm doing. Like, we're kind of entering what people are referring to as the junk slab era now, where there's so much graded card available right now. But it depends on what I'm doing. If I'm buying for my personal collection, I'm totally fine with buying a raw card and tossing it into one touch and it's on display, right? Or just go buying a PSA 9 or even a PSA 8. I don't care if it's going to be for my personal collection. Raw cards as an investment is really tricky, though. We hit a point where when PSA first shut down and then came back with higher prices, you could actually get really high quality raw cards because they weren't worth grading or it wasn't possible to grade at that time. Now with the cheapest PSA price, and obviously there's other grading companies that you can go for. I'm not just focused on one company. But the main player in this, PSA being a $50 sub at the cheapest right now, that's not going to work for a lot of mid or lower end cards. So you can find those opportunities to still buy raw. But for me personally, I usually expect if someone is selling a card raw, they've already inspected it and it's not worth grading. You're buying a raw card probably knowing it's not going to gem, right? So I'm either going to buy them in lots where I can kind of go and sort through myself, or buy them as a lot where I can buy them and then flip them as a lot and make a little bit of money that way. But it can be a little bit of an arbitrage opportunity to buy raw and flip raw, but typically no, it's not something that I'm really interested in. I prefer my raw cards coming from breaks. I either want to rip it, pack fresh myself, or get somebody to pull it for me.
Because then the idea that people had sorted through and taken the best ones out for grading, and now the ones they're selling raw have condition issues.
Right.
That's not the case if it comes fresh from a break, right? So
it can still be the case.
Well, I guess it can still be. I guess the person who got it could take a quick look and be like, I'm just going to sell that one raw.
Yeah.
How about you, Hammer?
Yeah, so, I mean, because it's interesting. You have PC, you have investment, and you also have to look at the errors that you're collecting. So, like for ultra modern, I'm usually going to rip it myself, so then I can inspect the card myself.
Point, yeah.
And if I am buying graded for ultra modern, I'm usually going with the 10. So, but as somebody who also likes to collect, 90s inserts and early Topps Chrome 2000 numbered stuff, that's where some of the graded versus raw. I try not to focus on that stuff too much because some of these cards are just so rare. You're just happy to have it in hand. But also those could be more for PC things, so you're not necessarily worried about making an investment play on it. But that's generally where I'm at. I like to be able to have exposure in both areas.
Yeah. I think it's a great point. I think, certainly as a collector, a lot of times it doesn't matter. I've got a massive Gator collection, and most of those cards aren't graded.
Budgetary concerns as well.
Like,
you may not be able to afford graded cards. You might just need to go raw.
Yeah, but as an investor, if it's a long-term investment in a big card, personally, I'm always going to want that graded. So anyway, all right, second mailbag question. This is a good one. Which NFL player is going to be most impacted in the hobby after all of this offseason movement? And we've seen a lot of it, right? We've seen obviously Russell Wilson, that's a huge move. Deshaun Watson's, going somewhere, right? We've had all kinds of things happen.
Some dude
Carson
for
Wentz,
Tampa Bay, unretired.
Some guy in Tampa Bay, which actually.
Now there's a real quarterback competition in Tampa. Trask or Brady.
That is true. That is true. I still think at some point Trask will come in for Brady, take over, lead him to the Super Bowl, just like Brady came in for Drew Bledsoe. We're going to see it happen again. And my guy Kyle Trask leading the way. He's the next Brady. All right. But Hammer, who do you have your eye on this NFL offseason with all this chaos going on?
So, for me, it's got to be the Russell Wilson move. I mean, this really shakes things up. Because if you're looking at the AFC West now, you've got Mahomes, you've got Herbert, now you've got Wilson. So, from a legacy standpoint...
You're just passing over Derek Carr, so we're not giving any... All right, that's fine. That's fine.
Yeah, we've got a Derek Carr.
We're fine.
We'll let others talk about him.
We're fine.
But, I mean, I think it really shakes things up from a legacy standpoint. I mean, you obviously have Patrick Mahomes at the head of it, but... You got three guys now that are going to be battling. Somebody legacy-wise, it's not going to turn out how maybe some of these investors or collectors that are buying these guys are going to turn out. And if you look at the non-QB standpoint, if I'm holding DK Metcalf right now, I'm not really too sure how I'm feeling.
Yeah.
I mean, when it comes to wide receivers, a lot of it is about who was throwing you the ball. Cooper Kupp was able to be accelerated into a top player this year because of the quarterback move that happened in LA. So that's something that I'm also keeping an eye on in terms of outside of the QBs, who are maybe some skill players that are also going to be benefactors or people that are going to be at a disadvantage from some of these moves.
That's a great point. Jerry Jeudy, man. Jerry Jeudy is going to get some balls in Denver
right.
now. We'll see. What about you, Doug?
That's exactly where my brain goes, is the butterfly effect that it has when these quarterbacks are moving teams. Everybody, of course, sees the quarterback, in their new spot, but then what does it do to the rest of the team, the parts around them? So we're looking at Russell Wilson and we're thinking Jerry Jeudy, or we're thinking sell DK Metcalf, right? Because what's the quarterback room situation in Seattle now? It's Jake Fromm, Geno Smith, and Drew Lock. Yeah. So sorry if you've got a lot of DK, I guess. I don't know. We'll figure that out. And then we've got Deshaun Watson on the move, and he's rumored to a bunch of different teams now. We saw Baker Mayfield recently have some cryptic tweet about, goodbye Browns, or not necessarily goodbye, but it was very weird. It felt like a goodbye without saying goodbye. So we're seeing a lot of movement right now. And you're going to see those price fluctuations on the skill players that are associated with those teams. You'll see Nick Chubb, you'll see Amari Cooper at the Browns possibly be elevated. Or if he goes to the Panthers, you'll see maybe something from McCaffrey. Or if he ends up with the Falcons, maybe Kyle Pitts becomes worth investing
Gosh,
in.
we need receivers with the Falcons, man.
Yeah, we really
It's brutal
do.
right now.
Yeah, that's a tough situation. But yeah, I think that's really where most speculators are going to focus their attention, is the butterfly effect that it has. Not so much the quarterback itself. Quarterbacks always carry a value, and you kind of know what these guys are at this point. Unless they are going to a situation where they're going to be legit Super Bowl contenders, the more focus should be on the butterfly effect to the skill players.
It's fun. This is part of the fun of it, right? I mean, it's speculation for sure. It's short-term flipping, that type of thing, but this is part of the fun of being into sports card investing, that you can take chances and try to figure out how all of this is actually going to play out in the sports card market this fall.
And let's not forget Aaron Rodgers, too. I know people are focused on him, but this affects Jordan Love, and it also affects Justin Fields, because now Aaron Rodgers is going to stay in that division for a while.
Hey, this show has also been fun. Hammer, thank you. Doug, thank you. Final question, Hammer. Is Kentucky going to get eliminated in the round of 64 or the round of 32? Which one?
They're going to win the region.
They're going to win the region? No, they're not going to.
As a non-college basketball guy,
you didn't even make it to the finals of the SEC tournament.
I just got a great idea.
You didn't make it to the finals of the SEC tournament.
Did you guys even play in the SEC tournament?
We were preparing for our big NIT matchups.
I thought NIT stand for not in tournament.
No. Would you? Yeah, this is a good question. Would you rather win the NIT or would you rather get bounced in the round of 32?
You're close to what I'm ready to propose. Let's have a little friendly wager. Who goes farther in the respective tournament? Who wins more games, Florida in the NIT or Kentucky in the NCAA tournament? And then we'll have some sort of prize on the line. Maybe the comment section can propose what the loser has to do.
I think the NIT is less teams, right? It's only 32, I think.
Hey, that's fine.
But we're just going to go round. How many rounds do you advance? All right, so you got an extra round. You got to advance.
You get home court advantage.
I like it. We're on. We're putting a box of cards on the line. Who's going to win? Let us know in the comments. Florida or Kentucky. The Gators are still going to be dancing in the NIT.
Blue.
All right. Anyway, appreciate you guys watching. Download that Sports Card Investor app. If you already have it on your phone, check it out with the free search and shuffle mode and all that kind of stuff. It is updated and it is awesome. It's the Sports Card Investor app. Hey guys, if you like the show, please hit that like button, give us a subscribe, hit that little bell icon. We'll see you back in a couple days with our next episode. Take care.